Good morning again, Mojado here on another edition of Amarillo by Morning, and I'm in Winters, Texas. Had to pull over to get some dead dinosaurs, and look at that. The best they've got is 91 dead dinosaurs, so I hope Rosie will be okay with only 91 dead dinosaurs. She prefers 93. Like I said, we're in Winters, Texas. That's somewhere in the center of Texas. I've been through this town a few times, but I don't know much about it. I know it's sort of a agricultural town. I've seen a couple of cattle trucks go by. I don't know too much about this town. It's starting to warm up. I'm starting to feel the heat a little bit. We're on our way to 100 degrees today. Rosie says it's 82 degrees outside, but it feels a little warmer than that. And we're off. Something I've noticed on this trip so far, not a lot of motorcycles here in central Texas. Not a lot of Harley dealerships either. I think the closest one right now is in Abilene. Well, according to Rosie's navigation system, I'm 290 miles outside of Amarillo. Not quite halfway. $50 miles to Sweetwater. Like I said, I don't know too much about Winters. I know there's a lot of cattle in this area. I've also been seeing a lot of agriculture. I'm not sure what kind of fields those are. Maybe, I don't know, maybe cotton. Hard to tell. And I've noticed that the landscape has really flattened out as opposed to just an hour or so ago. It still had some hills. The closer you get to Amarillo, the more it flattens out into sort of a lunar landscape. A lot of farming and agricultural land out here. You see all this? This is something I noticed when I was growing up in the Panhandle. A lot of these farms, when they retire a piece of equipment, they don't get rid of it. They've usually got like a little pasture or something like that, and that's where they'll put their old combines and trailers, and they'll just let it sit there and rust for the next 20, 30, 40 years. They don't get rid of stuff. It's very obviously trash, sort of, in that it probably does not function anymore. But I guess this is something about the farming mentality that I never got. You don't get rid of anything just because it's an old truck and it doesn't run anymore. You see there? Trailers that are just looks like they haven't moved for 50 years. I don't get it. Is this like a hoarding type mentality? I don't know. Maybe if somebody's a farmer, you can set me straight in the comments below. I don't get it. In my life, if I've got something that I don't use or no longer functions, it's time to get rid of it. You got to let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Some people can't do that. I get it. Let's see. Sign says 47 miles to Sweetwater. That's the land of the wind generators, and you may not know this, but Sweetwater is the home of the Rattlesnake Roundup. Some people would call Sweetwater the Diamondback rattlesnake capital of the world. Every year they have it's sort of like a festival. They call it the Rattlesnake Roundup, and all these snake wranglers in and around Sweetwater go out and they collect rattlesnakes, and they have a big carnival, and they have a fair. They do face painting, a lot of beer, and they gather up all these snakes, and whoever gathers up the most, or I think they do it by weight, the most pounds of rattlesnakes, that wins a big prize. Some of you may be asking, what do they do with all the snakes? Well, they process them. For you PETA snowflakes, that means they kill them, and they use the meat, they use the skin, and the venom to help people. Some oil field stuff out here too, and there's a couple of, I think they call them pump jacks. The joys of little Texas highways out in the middle of nowhere. And I always use that term, out in the middle of nowhere, but I think if anywhere is deserving of the term middle of nowhere, I would say outside of Winters, Texas. Look at that skyline. There's nothing out here. If it weren't for these oil collection tanks, it would be like the lunar landscape. So, not much for scenery so far. Well, I will check in again on the next leg of this trip. It's Mojado goes to Amarillo, Amarillo by morning. Be well, be safe, and be nice to each other.